A VPN, short for Virtual Private Network, is a privacy protection tool that is quickly becoming a must-have. But why do you need a VPN, and how does it work in the first place? A VPN helps your data travel through the internet safely, without big companies or cybercriminals being able to spy on your online activities. Also, a VPN swaps the real location of your device with a new one. This way, you can virtually travel to any country around the globe. So, who can benefit from a VPN? If you're worried about your online privacy, a VPN makes sure your identity and private information are not exposed when you go online. If digital security is your top priority, a VPN gives a nice additional layer of security. It encrypts your data so nobody could see what you send and receive. If you are a human rights activist whose freedom of speech is restricted, a VPN helps you to bypass censorship and speak to the world. Or, if you're on holiday in another country, with a VPN, you can bring your home entertainment anywhere you go. Here's a pro tip. Check out Surfshark VPN. It has everything you need in a premium VPN, awesome speeds, and industry-leading protection that covers all of your devices. All you have to do is click Connect. Secure your digital life and enjoy everything good that the internet has to offer with a VPN you can trust.
Click link in the description and get 81% discount for your first order. Stain selection. Identify the wood as hardwood or softwood so you can pick the best stain. Hardwoods usually look and feel slightly rough because the grain is porous. Porous grains accept stain more evenly. Softwoods have a tighter, less porous grain, which makes staining a bit more challenging. Properly identifying the wood will help you to choose the right staining products and technique. Consult an experienced woodworker for help identifying a piece of wood, or check out an online wood identification guide like the following: https://www.wooddatabase.com/woodfinder/. Light-colored wood can be a hardwood which comes from deciduous trees or a softwood from conifers. Common light-colored hardwoods include oak, maple, birch, and poplar, while common light-colored softwoods include cedar, fir, pine, and spruce. Choose water-based stain for a natural color, especially on softwood. Water-based stains usually soak in less completely and dry more quickly, resulting in less coloration and a more natural look. Select a water-white stain with a satin or matte finish if you want the wood to remain as close to its natural state as possible. Water-based stains are easier to clean up and more environmentally friendly than oil-based stains. They don't hold their color for quite as long, however. Select oil-based stain to darken light wood, especially hardwood. You can use a water-based stain to darken a light piece of wood, but it will definitely take more coats and more time. Oil-based stains penetrate more deeply and create a richer, deeper color, especially on light-colored hardwoods. You can use oil-based stain on softwoods as well, but you probably won't get quite the same richness and depth of color. Oil-based stains are easier to apply evenly than water-based stains, but they are also more difficult to clean up afterward. Go with gel-based stain for a paint-like, surface-only finish. Unlike water and oil-based stains, gel-based stains don't penetrate wood. Instead, the gel creates an opaque finish that's somewhere between paint and traditional stain. While a gel-based stain won't highlight the grain as well as the other stain options, it's by far the easiest to apply on vertical surfaces such as installed cabinets. Gel-based stains work equally well on hardwoods and softwoods. Buy a compatible wood conditioner to go with water or oil-based stains. If you decide to use a water-based stain, use a water-based wood conditioner. Go with an oil-based conditioner if you're using an oil-based stain. Compatible products are usually clearly marked, but feel free to read the product packaging and ask an employee at the home improvement store for assistance. Wood conditioner helps your chosen stain penetrate the wood more evenly. Conditioner isn't needed if you're using gel-based stain. It's not absolutely essential for water or oil-based stain either, but it's strongly recommended. Get a sealant if you want your wood to have a durable, glossy finish. Like wood conditioner, applying a sealant isn't absolutely necessary, but it is highly recommended. Adding finishing coats of sealant will make the stain beneath it much more durable and long-lasting. Sealant does, however, add a gloss that you may not want if you're going for a very natural light wood look. Sealants are typically effective on any type of water, oil, or gel-based stain, but you may want to ask a woodworker or home improvement store employee for specific recommendations. Wood prep: set up in a well-ventilated indoor area or a shaded outdoor spot. Sanding the wood creates a lot of dust, and applying staining products creates potentially noxious fumes. If you're working in your garage, open the main door and any windows. Don't work in another spot, like your basement, unless you can open multiple windows and set up a fan to exhaust the air. If it's a nice day, work outside. Just don't set up in direct sunlight, which can affect the drying process of your staining products. Sand the surface with 120 grit sandpaper to get rid of imperfections. Rub the sandpaper back and forth firmly and evenly using long, smooth strokes. Work parallel to the grain of the wood with the grain, not perpendicular to it against the grain. Wipe away the sawdust with a tack cloth or a lightly dampened rag. 120 grit sandpaper is considered medium fine grit. Repair remaining scratches and gouges with stainable wood filler. Buy a wood filler that's labeled stainable, and, if possible, that is very similar in shade to the wood you're going to stain. Use a small putty knife to press the filler into any small scratches and gouges, then scrape away the excess putty on the surface with the blade of the knife. Allow the putty to dry completely according to the package instructions. Slightly overfill the scratches or gouges with putty, since it shrinks a bit when it dries. If the dried putty is rougher than the surrounding wood, sand down the roughness with 120 grit sandpaper before proceeding. Sand again with 220 grit sandpaper to smooth the surface. Use the same process as before, but this time with fine/extra fine grit paper. Use a tack cloth or a slightly damp cloth to wipe off any sawdust. When you're done, the wood should feel smooth to the touch. If not, give it another pass with the 220 grit paper. If you use a damp cloth instead of a tack cloth, let the wood dry completely before applying wood conditioner. Apply a thin, even layer of conditioner unless you're using gel stain. Open the can of wood conditioner and dip a clean rag, sponge, or natural bristle brush into it. Wipe or brush the conditioner onto the wood surface, going back and forth in the direction of the grain with long, steady, even strokes. Aim to coat the entire wood surface with a thin, even layer of conditioner. If you're using gel-based stain, skip all the way ahead to prepping the stain for application. Compared to the stain and sealant coats to come, you can afford to be a little less precise when applying a coat of wood conditioner. But this is a good time to practice your technique. Wipe off the excess conditioner after 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Wad up a clean rag and use it to softly and evenly wipe away any damp conditioner that's still on the surface of the wood. Once again, work with the grain as you wipe. Switch to a clean spot on the rag as needed. While 10 minutes, 15 minutes is a typical waiting time, read the product instructions on your wood conditioner for specific guidance. Let the conditioner dry for at least 30 minutes, but no more than 2 hours. For the best results, don't try to apply stain when the conditioner is either still damp or overly dry. Under most conditions, 60 minutes, 90 minutes is the ideal drying time. Plan your staining session accordingly. Here again, check the specific instructions provided with your wood conditioner. Sand the wood once more with 220 grit sandpaper to prep the surface. Follow the same technique as before with the fine/extra fine paper. Go with the grain and use long, steady, even strokes. In this case, though, don't use a damp cloth to wipe away the sawdust. Wipe with a clean, dry cloth or a tack cloth. The goal here is to very lightly rough up the surface so it accepts stain more easily. You can use a slightly finer sandpaper grit than 220 if you wish, but definitely don't use a coarser grit such as 120. Stain application. Stir the can of stain and dip your brush or rag into it. Use a wooden stirring stick to thoroughly mix the stain. Dip either a clean, soft cloth or a natural bristle brush into the stain. Don't overload the rag or brush. Your goal is to apply a light, even coat of stain. Your brush or rag shouldn't be so loaded with stain that it's dripping onto the wood. Stirring is a better option than shaking the can, as it mixes the stain more evenly. If you want to keep the stain off of your hands, slip on a pair of disposable gloves. Apply a thin, even coat of stain with long, steady strokes. As always, go only in the direction of the grain, not against the grain. Wipe or brush back and forth several times to help spread the stain evenly and work it into the wood. Aim to make the coat as even as you can, especially if you're using gel-based stain. It may end up looking splotchy otherwise. Even if your goal is to darken the light wood substantially, don't try to add a thick first layer of stain. Instead, focus on applying several thin coats. Wipe off the excess stain after 5 minutes for light shading, or up to 15 for dark. The longer you allow the stain to penetrate the wood, the deeper and darker shading it will cause. To wipe away the excess, use a clean rag and go with the grain in long, steady, even strokes. Keep wiping until the wood is moist, but there are no more damp areas of stain on the surface. If you only want to add light shading to your light-colored wood, wipe away the excess after 5 minutes. Don't wait more than 15 minutes in any case. If you're not sure how dark you want to go, wipe away the excess sooner rather than later. It's easy to add more coats to darken the wood, but very tough to remove stain to lighten it. Switch to a clean spot on the rag after every few wipes, or use multiple rags. Wait 4 hours, then repeat the process, adding as many coats as desired. Allow the wood to dry for at least 4 hours. It's okay to wait longer than this. When the stained wood looks and feels fully dried, decide whether you want to shade the wood any darker. If so, add another coat of stain in the same manner as before. Allow the wood to dry for at least 4 hours after you add each subsequent coat. If you're satisfied with the shading after 1 coat of stain and at least 4 hours of drying time, move on to adding a sealant. You can add as many coats of stain as you want, but you'll start to see diminishing returns after around 3 minutes. 4 coats. The wood can only absorb so much stain. Sealant. Stir the can of sealant to mix it, since shaking causes air bubbles. Open the lid and use a wooden stick to stir up your chosen sealant. While sealing stained wood is optional, it adds a lot of durability and sheen to the finish. Polyurethane, which you can buy at any hardware store, is a great sealant choice for light-colored wood. If you want your wood to really shine, choose a sealant with a high gloss finish. If you want the wood to have a more natural look, pick a matte finish. If the sealant has lots of air bubbles in it, your finished wood will end up with tiny bubbles all over its surface. So remember to stir, not shake. Brush on a thin, even layer of sealant with a natural bristle brush. Don't use a rag to apply sealant. Dip your brush and make long, steady, even strokes back and forth in the direction of the grain. Once you've applied a thin, even coat, lightly run the brush from one end of the wood to the other, going with the grain. Repeat these extra long, extra light strokes until you've gone over the entire piece of wood. Slightly overlap each long finishing stroke. Making these finishing strokes will help to remove brush marks from the surface. Wait 4 hours, then lightly sand the wood if you want to add more sealant. If the wood looks and feels glossy to your liking after 1 coat of sealant and 4 hours of drying time, you're all set. Otherwise, very lightly sand the wood surface with 220 grit sandpaper. Wipe away the dust with a clean, dry cloth or better yet a tack cloth. Some sealants may recommend at least 2 coats in any case. Check the product instructions. Add more coats of sealant as desired, then let the wood dry for 48 hours. Brush on a coat of sealant, let it dry 4 hours, lightly sand it, and repeat the process as many times as you want. Each coat will make the finish more shiny. When the wood is finished to your liking, give it at least 48 hours to dry completely before using it. Woodworkers typically add 2 minutes 3 coats of sealant to their stained wood.